This is the third and final game that I played in a game in 25 tournament, and playing against experienced player. He's been a long time expert who has black. And let's go ahead and get started. And again, I'm sticking with my theme that I had all throughout the tournament. When I'm in a more aggressive mood, I'll play knight c3 and leave my opponent more options and me more options. But when I'm feeling solid, I will go with fianchetto structures, as has been seen on the channel numerous times. And my opponent played for an early e5 here. And I feel like optimally the best way to go is to castle, and then if white goes d4, choose which variation you want to play the King's Indian against the fianchetto. I think that's the better way to go. e5 kind of horseshoes you as black, and now you have to play a classical fianchetto if I go d4. You could also go with, say, the Mark Bernanke special, which would be the rook b1, b4 plan, if you want to stick within the realms of English. But that would be solid, but because I have a lot of experience in these structures and like them, I went ahead and played d4. And it's interesting because I've had so many games, and with both sides of this, I got to the point to where I started to detest having this pawn structure with black, because I see it kind of as, if white can ever set up a bind, you're just going to get tortured. And where is your counterplay going to be generated from? So I feel like black already has a major uphill battle from this pawn structure. So after castles, knight c3, and now there is a potential forever weakness. And just from the structure, you're going to see how I handle the rest of the game, and it's all going to center around the fact that black doesn't have any immediate counterplay. So we're just going to squeeze. So first and foremost, this bishop could potentially come to the square, the knight could come to the square. So I'm just going to go h3 before I do anything else, limit counterplay, and on rook e8, b3, we've got flexibility with this bishop to go to b2 or a3 at the right moment. And to get out of the bind, something that I was considering for black was potentially d5 here. And it's going to change the character of the game dramatically, but now you traded one bad pawn for another, because isolated pawn forever, or I can go directly to this ending where I'm still retaining an edge, but maybe better to suffer with this ending than the one that black got, or the position rather. So e3, queen d4, double rooks on the c file. This is still just going to be painful. But okay, after b3, knight bd7, bishop b2, knight f8, and we're in no hurry, queen d2. Already starting to see how I'm x-raying the d6 pawn. See the Maroczy bind structure and the fixed weakness. Now the d pawn, you can't get rid of it. After bishop e6, we're not in the trading business. Trading will help black since he's cramped. So we're going to get the knight out of the way, magnify that weakness on d6. Now knight h5. Now, this is a critical moment, because it's interesting. In the previous two games, I showed that I had a willingness to just play very solidly, go to end games, and not take any risk. And I considered both of the quote-unquote best moves in the position here. So what would you do and why? All right, so one move is calculation-oriented, and the other is really not. So I feel like I should have just played, in hindsight, just bishop a3 immediately. Focus on the plan I've been doing the entire game, because at this point, I'm just going to go king h2, and black can't hold everything together. this is going to fall. I mean, c5 could be a potential threat in some positions. You got to be watching out for that idea. g4, e5, you know, there's always those potential breaks. I mean, right now the queen's covered, but keep those tactical ideas in mind. They come in handy later. But what is black going to do here? f4, g4, also a plan. But I did not like the knight on h5, so I went ahead and played g4. And I was getting kind of concerned. And being that it's game in 25, I was like, okay, I just gave my opponent something to do. And being the cramped nature of the position, and after doing roughly 40 hours of video on mastering chess middle games for Chessable and having one chapter that focused on, you know, changing the character of the game, I felt like after f4, which is very natural, bishop takes g4 is a strong consideration. And I was having trouble seeing the best way to handle this position, because you can blunder quickly here. And even though white is quote-unquote winning, this is not a good position to play in fast time controls because there's a lot of room for error. And actually the best move according to the engine is bishop h3, a move I would not consider, followed by rook f3 and rook g3. And the engine is giving this +4, but it's not the most comfortable or straightforward situation. So that would be more in the tactical realm. So if I had a problem with g4, this was probably my longest think in the game, maybe between 3 and 4 minutes. I wanted to eliminate that idea altogether. So I give him the square, but then now I play f4. And I'd seen after queen d7, queen d3 is just very solid. But I missed a very, very nice tactical resource here. So since I've given you the hint, try to figure out why white is actually just winning on the spot here. And of course, because I've used time the past few moves, I'm trying to stay close on the clock in case there's a scramble. Fast time controls are volatile, so, you know, stay up on time if you can. I missed f5, and after takes, the brilliant bishop f3. So full credit if you trap the knight on the edge of the board, but the subtle bishop moves in the sidelines here are quite interesting. But queen d3 straight away. And now f5 is a huge threat, so my opponent plays it himself. We keep going with the pressure. And I come back to just making a simple threat with bishop a3. But honestly, bishop c1 is probably the better way to go. And I realize it later, after I play bishop a3, that even though black's pieces are in a clump on the 7th and 8th ranks, he's still holding together. So I'm going to start probing a bit here. Queen f3. And I see black starting to get out of the bind. I go, okay, I like his bishop. My bishop's not doing as much. We're going to bring him back. I admit that I was wrong. And you have to have the flexibility when you've made a mistake to understand it and then fix it. And after knight f6, white has a couple of good options here. Bishop f4 was my initial intention, where we get something, say, like this. And easy time for white. But I liked the tension in the position. And when your opponent's in a bind, you want to keep the tension on them because it makes their life harder and harder. So bishop f4 is probably the engine's first choice, but I liked bishop g5 because I'm threatening bishop takes, followed by f takes g6, and you're winning a piece. And after knight h5, again, that knight on the edge of the board in the game. we have a critical moment. People go, whoa, that's a rook right there. Okay. But again, I question the amount of counterplay you're going to give your opponent in rapid time controls. Say, for instance, bishop takes d8. Queen e3 needs to be played because I'm stopping the invasion. Then knight d4. The queen e3 and knight d4 moves are not very natural. To play knight ce2 to hold everything. And then finally, bishop f3. So that's a bunch of only moves for white in order to maintain the edge. I could sense that black was getting counterplay and I had to play accurately. When you don't have a lot of time, you don't want to go for those types of routes. And I think it's greedy to grab the rook, so I increase the tension and pressure on my opponent and make him worry that when I want to take the rook, he's going to have to deal with it later. So he plays rook e8. And I've definitely gotten the better end of the deal here, as I kept my opponent in a bind the whole game, and I want to continue to do so. The bishop on d6 is pinned, so I'm going to use the opportunity now to play knight f4, and the white camp is completely coordinated, and bad things are about to happen. So my opponent plays queen c7 to try to get off of that nasty pin. So that opens up the black king and also creates a weakness on h5. So let's bring the other knight over. Go after that weakness, shall we? Knight f4. And it's hard to make a move for black, but this kind of speeds up the inevitable. Knight e5. Queen g3 with dirty tactics just looming everywhere. And it was around here my opponent made some statement like, uh-oh. It's like, yeah, big uh-oh. So let's see some of the dirty that can happen here. Say, for instance, if king h8, bishop f6 is mate. If king f8, bishop h6 followed by queen g5 is mate. So a move that I was thinking for him, like a blitz move, is h4, where bishop takes followed by bishop f6. And I stopped calculating there because I'm like, okay, this has got to be good enough. And then the engine gives bishop g6 followed by f takes. In the main game, my opponent played bishop g6. And after takes, knight takes h5. Rook f8. And I just have way too many threats here. And my opponent decided to throw in the towel. So you can see from start to finish with the tournament, I had a certain theme and style of play that I had in mind, and I chose openings that kind of went along with that style. It was interesting that the key moment was g4 versus bishop a3, that I just couldn't help myself with the move g4 and created more of a nasty position than I felt that I probably should have. But was it bad? No. You should really pay attention to your mood when playing in tournaments and tournament games, because it can help you decide the style in which you should be playing in. So I felt solid. You got to see from start to finish my solid 3-round tournament and performance. If you want to have your own game analyzed, you know what to do. Right there, you can find my email. Send me games. Send me a story. Send me the ratings. What are the time controls? Give me your perspective, some annotations. Not all games get analyzed that get sent to me, but most of them do. And I'd love to see your games. Thanks for your support of the channel. Appreciate it.